"You're going to jail, pal." It's more than just a line. It's a warning. And in Hollywood, no one delivers a warning quite like Harrison Ford. For over 50 years, he's been the face of legendary heroes. But behind the scenes, he's one of the toughest, most uncompromising forces the industry has ever seen. Ford doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't throw tantrums. He doesn't need to. Because when he decides he's done with you, it's final. These aren't petty disagreements or celebrity feuds. These are full-blown breakdowns. Moments where the tension behind the camera was more explosive than anything on screen. And today, we're revealing the 6 actors who crossed that invisible line and never got a second chance. From the moment Shia LaBeouf stepped on set for Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it was clear something was off. The energy was volatile. The atmosphere, tense. Harrison Ford, known for his precision and control, was about to face a kind of chaos he had zero patience for. LaBeouf's method approach clashed violently with Ford's old-school discipline. Where Ford treated every scene like engineering, measured, deliberate, Shia dove in headfirst, raw and unpredictable. Rehearsals turned into battlegrounds. One witness described it as watching a master carpenter forced to work with a wrecking ball. Things came to a head during a crucial father-son scene. Shia went off script, improvising lines and shifting emotional beats mid-take. Ford didn't say a word. He just stopped. The crew held their breath. Then, calmly but firmly, Ford shut the scene down. No yelling, no drama. Just a message that couldn't be clearer. "This isn't how I work." After filming wrapped, Ford made his feelings public, without naming names. "There's a difference between commitment and chaos," he said, "and I won't enable the latter." Those close to the production said Ford looked visibly relieved when Shia's final scene was done, like a man who'd weathered a storm he never wanted to sail through again. Shia called it creative tension. Ford called it something else entirely, unprofessional. But Shia wasn't the only actor whose intensity turned collaboration into conflict. On Blade Runner, the line between fiction and reality didn't just blur, it vanished. And no one felt that more than Harrison Ford. His co-star Sean Young wasn't just playing the mysterious replicant Rachel. She was living it. Every hour, on and off the set. Young's full immersion method acting might have worked with someone else. But with Ford, a man who separates the work from the personal, it was a nightmare. He never knew if he was speaking to the actress or the character. And that uncertainty slowly ate away at the trust they needed to make the film's emotional core believable. The breaking point came during their romantic scenes. What should have been quiet, intimate moments turned into psychological warfare. The chemistry was cold, strained, almost painful to watch. Behind the camera, crew members whispered that it felt like filming a breakup, not a love story. Director Ridley Scott tried to mediate, but even he admitted Harrison was uncomfortable. Always. Years later, Ford described the experience as walking through a minefield with no map. It changed the way he worked with intense actors forever. And while Sean Young blurred boundaries, the next actor challenged Ford in a different way, by throwing structure out the window. When The Fugitive hit theaters, critics praised the electric chemistry between Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones. What they didn't see was what it took to survive it. Jones brought a fiery, improvisational energy to the set. Every take was different, every line tweaked or rephrased on the fly. For Ford, who builds his performances like architecture, solid, intentional, layered, it was chaos. Beautiful chaos, maybe, but chaos all the same. Their first major scene together was a disaster behind the scenes. Jones would shift his delivery every take, forcing Ford to adapt in real time. At first, it was thrilling. Then it became exhausting. Ford reportedly told the director, "I can't build anything if the floor keeps moving." The tension reached its peak during the now iconic tunnel scene. Ford needed rhythm, timing, exact beats. Jones kept changing his intensity, throwing Ford's performance off balance. What made for great drama on screen nearly broke the collaboration off-screen. The two men respected each other, but that respect couldn't overcome the fundamental mismatch in how they worked. Ford never said he disliked Jones. He didn't have to. The silence after The Fugitive was loud enough. But sometimes, it wasn't just style that clashed. It was the entire emotional wavelength. When two of Hollywood's biggest stars sign onto a romantic drama, you expect fireworks. With Harrison Ford and Julia Roberts, you got frostbite. Behind closed doors, producers were excited. On paper, it was a dream pairing. Ford's grounded charm matched with Robert's radiant charisma. But once the cameras started rolling, that dream quickly turned into a director's worst nightmare. From the first chemistry read, something was off. Roberts leaned into her usual expressive, vibrant style. Ford stayed still, too still. She pushed, he pulled back. She lit up the scene, he dimmed it down. They weren't co-starring. They were clashing. Director Mike Nichols tried everything. Rewrites, reshoots, coaching. But the problem wasn't the script, it was the frequency. As he put it, Julia's performance asks you to meet it. Harrison's demands you come in quietly. And neither was willing or able to adjust. The final straw came during a pivotal love scene. Roberts gave everything. Ford gave almost nothing. Cinematographer Sven Nykvist later admitted it felt like filming two separate movies on the same set. The connection just wasn't there, and it never would be. Ford later said it felt like acting opposite a performance rather than a person. Roberts, in turn, said he was emotionally unreachable. And with that, the project was shelved, along with any chance of them ever working together again. But what happens when two stars don't just miss each other emotionally, but battle for total creative control? Sometimes, the worst fights happen before the cameras even roll. Harrison Ford and Kevin Costner were circling a gritty Western epic, something both men believed could define their legacies. But behind the scenes, it became a silent war of egos disguised as creative differences. Ford wanted a character-driven story, raw, intimate, psychologically complex. Costner had a different vision, sweeping landscapes, epic scale, myth-making on horseback. It wasn't one movie with two perspectives. It was two entirely different films, and only one could be made. Script meetings turned into strategic battles. Every line Costner added for himself, Ford tried to cut. Every time Ford deepened his character, Costner amped up the action. No one was willing to compromise. It wasn't about collaboration anymore. It was about dominance. Things came to a head in a private development session. Ford questioned a key character choice Costner had championed. Costner fired back with a now legendary line, "You're trying to turn an epic into a therapy session." From that moment, the project flatlined. Insiders say it was the most polite, professional standoff in Hollywood history, but just as final. One producer called it a creative death spiral. Neither man ever spoke publicly about it. They didn't need to. The silence spoke volumes. But while Costner and Ford clashed over vision, the final actor on this list pushed things much, much further, into a realm Ford couldn't overlook. Of all the actors Harrison Ford has distanced himself from, none drew a harder line than Mel Gibson. And this time, it had nothing to do with acting styles or creative direction. It was personal, moral, non-negotiable. In the early 2000s, the two were in talks for a high-stakes action thriller, something built for two aging titans to go head-to-head. The project had money, studios, and anticipation behind it. But behind the scenes, Ford was growing increasingly uneasy. It wasn't Gibson's talent that concerned him. It was his behavior. The controversies, the interviews, the off-screen outbursts. Gibson's name had become a lightning rod. And for Ford, that wasn't just bad PR. It was a threat to the professionalism and mutual respect he demanded on every set. During pre-production meetings, Ford quietly pulled producers aside. According to insiders, he voiced deep concern, not just for the project's reputation, but for the working environment. "If the cast doesn't feel safe or respected," he reportedly said, "you can't build anything real." The tipping point came when other actors began pulling out, unwilling to share a set with Gibson. Ford didn't shout. He didn't go public. He just walked. One studio executive called it the most principled no in recent memory. And when asked privately why he stepped away, Ford was simple and direct. "The work matters. The people matter more." Harrison Ford doesn't feud. He doesn't gossip. He doesn't care about tabloid drama. But when something or someone compromises the integrity of the work, he draws a line. Quietly, firmly, permanently. The actors on this list weren't enemies. They were lessons. Each one revealed something about the code Ford lives by. Show up prepared, respect the process, and never mistake chaos for creativity. In a world obsessed with fame, Ford chose professionalism. In an industry built on ego, he led with silence and standards. He's not Hollywood's friendliest star, but maybe that's why he's still here, decades later, doing the kind of work that lasts. Because Harrison Ford doesn't just act in movies. He builds them, scene by scene, standard by standard. And if you can't keep up, you don't get invited back.